This is the, what's the name of the show? The Joe Franklin Show, where you meet the most interesting, fascinating, captivating people that the world has ever known. And many people have said to me, Joe, you got to meet Mr. Bungert, Mr. D. Edward Bungert. He has written Deep Cover, and it's a very deeply exciting book. I want to tell you, this is the young man to watch in the literary world through the 1990s. We're going to meet Mr. Bob Friedhofer. Mr. Friedhofer is the magician about whom Blackstone said and Houdini said, what'd they say? I don't know. But they said he's the man to watch yesteryear. We're going to meet some very exciting people today. And I want to do my memory lane moment right now. This time a personal moment, a recollection of a young man about 4 years ago who was totally unknown, made his first appearance anywhere on the Joe Franklin Show, and today he is what they call the superstar of the decade, maybe the generation, and they say that he just can't fulfill any of his bookings or record sessions. His name is Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks making his first appearance ever on TV or radio on the Joe Franklin Show. Richie Ornstein, yours truly, and Garth Brooks, who became the star of the, I guess, decade or generation. A little bit of not that long ago down memory lane in the present. These words, and what I promised you was going to be a big cavalcade of interesting and captivating people. Let's watch these words first.
On the next Kung Fu, the legend continues.
So, Mr. Ed Bungert, as I show Deep Cover on the screen, how could I not ask you, how does one go about more or less researching the secrets of bikers and the FBI agents who pursue them, that entire subculture? You know, what I'm saying is, how does one take what you would call something like this that could be fictional and make it seem so journalistically accurate? And that's a mouthful.
Well, you really got to approach this like a journalist would. You have to be hungry for the information, yet of course be able to guarantee all of these sources that it is a fictional piece. You don't need names and dates. You just want to authenticate what you're writing. And basically you have to ask a lot of questions and not be afraid to ask, no matter where you are, about whether or not someone might be able to introduce you to someone either in the biker life or in the FBI life who could give you some information on these different groups.
And what are some of the lengths or some of the dangers maybe that an undercover detective has to go through?
Well, I mean, an undercover, especially a deep cover agent, like one who I had interviewed, he's on his own. I mean, he's out there. He has no backup support. He only has a contact phone number. He often, if he's married, has to be away from his family for months. And he is in a situation where, I mean, it's like the ultimate acting job, only there are no retakes. If he's not convincing, he'll die right then and there. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that is, I mean, his life is on the line every minute of the day. And life
isn't all, I noticed, sort of cut and dried. It's not all spelled out good guys and bad guys. It's, you know, it's...
Absolutely, and that, I mean, that really is the gist of the whole story, is that Agent Martin Walsh when he first takes the assignment, in his own mind, it's very cut and dry. But in order to be effective and do the job he's supposed to do, he has to almost become part of this group and learn to identify with them. And he finds out that it's not that simple. It's not just me, good guys, and them bad guys.
A young writer in demand after the rave reviews in the press for Deep Cover is Mr. Edward Bungert. Young talk show lady who seems very intrigued is Anne-Marie Offer of her own TV talk show. Anne-Marie, what goes through your mind listening to Mr. Bungert and yours truly talking about the suspense to be found in Deep Cover?
Well, I wondered if, I may ask, did you get in any scary situations working on this book? And how much did I know I'm an actress too, and sometimes when you're working on a role or something, your life becomes that way. Did any of your life sort of get kind of challenged that way and frightened, or, you know?
No, well, I mean, you get frightened from some of the research when you find out how brutal and dangerous it could actually be in these circumstances. However, I always kept a safe distance from some of the more notorious clubs, preferring to speak with associates or ex-members rather than to walk into a biker bar and announce that I was writing a book.
Richie Ornstein, having been a private detective and a non-private detective, any feeling on what you've heard so far?
Well, you bring up a very good point, Ed, about undercover men, because it is a very, very secretive type of job, and one mistake can cost you your life. Did you have any trouble finding undercover people
No, in that, you know, and I found really the key is if you can get the conversation with the person, is to establish trust. That number one, it's a work of fiction, and number two, all I want to do is meet you. Even if I talk about an unrelated topic, right. I'm face to face with someone in the life. That's going to authenticate my work. And then the trust is established, and then you can open up the lines of communication.
So far as where investigation, let's say, in life begins and ends, could any of this ever impinge on somebody's privacy? If anybody would ever countersue, would somebody ever investigate it? Could they say the First Amendment was violated? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think so, because I was very careful to fictionalize, and for example, the FBI, they have 4 major outlaw motorcycle gangs that they pursue. My group, the Henchmen, is a mixture of all those groups, taking characteristics from each one. So it isn't about any one
So it's all constitutional.
Absolutely.
So far as investigating.
Absolutely.
Listen, this is what you call a panel of interesting people.
Plus, they watch a lot of late-night television, so I want to be careful not to.
Right. Well, a lot of authors who write about late-night TV mention that when the hero or heroine are watching TV, they're watching my show. I'm mentioning about 11 books lately, you know, mystery books. Anyhow, it's no mystery. The fact that my good friend Bob Friedhofer has written about 26 books about magic. He's one of the world's foremost magicians. Of course, if you could make evil people disappear, that'd be the ultimate magic, right? Bob, I just happened to mention the name a minute ago of Houdini and Blackstone, trying to be facetious, but if they were around today, would they be amazed by
The 4?
No, you're not paying attention. See, there's nothing left at all.
Wow.
That's it.
Well, Ed.
Wow.
Ed, when were you first, as they say, bitten or smitten by the writing bug, and who might have been your inspiration when you were?
Well, I'd say the inspiration I would have to say was the people I grew up with, being a kid from. And growing up on the street, a lot of my friends, of course, became quote-unquote good productive citizens. Some, unfortunately, became outlaws, and some wound up in prison. And so the idea for the book really came out of that, where my experience, having friends from both sides of the fence, so to speak, the fact that people became quote-unquote outlaws, doesn't make them any less my friends. And so I wanted to write a story where somebody had that personal experience of going after one of these groups and finding out that he, of course, had to befriend them first before he could effectively betray them and bring them down.
And the one who's in jail, you wanted to send him cigarettes, but you found out he doesn't smoke.
Well, actually, I sent him a book, and he said he got good reviews and thumbs up from the bikers in prison, so that was, that was reassuring news.
I once had a book by a man who's no longer with us named Jackie Cannon, a comedian, and it was based on poetry written in prison, and he called it Prose from the Cons.
Yeah.
It was a very popular seller for a while.
Yeah, that's good.
And Mr. Fried, so who's your publisher?
Signet.
And it's got to, if the movie is made, and if nobody here is available, who would you like to play Dr. Death?
Oh, I thought of somebody like a Nick Nolte type character, somebody who played the straight FBI agent in the beginning and make the transition into the biker effectively. Someone like that would be.
I was watching somebody on TV the other night named Joe Penny. You know the name Joe Penny?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Great face. I mean, I never had him on the show here, but he played a mafia type, but he did a really suave.
Yeah, somebody who could make that transition.
Right, debonair kind of a job.
Yeah.
And Mr. Friedhofer, your success is assured. I can't tell you how I
thank you,
enjoyed
Joe.
going through this.